Hi YouTube, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can find us on the web, caltoncutlery.com. This is continuation of the sharpening series that I'm doing. I think this is number 4 maybe. Um, the first video we went over what we defined an edge, and we used a number 2 pencil to define what an edge is, because everybody knows what a number 2 pencil is, how it dulls, that sort of thing, and what to do when it gets dull. Um, the second video, I think we went over the lifetime of an edge, what causes an edge or a pencil point to dull, and when it would require sharpening again. The third video, we went over the ideal edge being an edge that was just thick enough to withstand repeated use slash a little bit of abuse for the person who used that knife and what they normally used it for. So this video is going to be on sharpening stones. I like just a regular old stone. I've got a good collection of stones here in front of me that we'll go over here in a second, but I don't really like the mechanical sharpening systems all that much, because they're so limited in what it is that they can do. If you go back to the ideal edge video, when I talk about thinning the edge out if you're not getting any damage in your normal use, it's really tough to change the angles with a lot of those systems. I did have a Lansky type setup, and I'm not picking on Lansky or anything, but I think somebody gave me a Lansky sharpening set when I was a kid, and it was the type that has the clamp that clamps onto the blade, the spine of the blade, and then it has a couple of wings that come out, and then the stones are on they're mounted on in a plastic holder that has a rod connected to it, and then you insert that rod into the little slots that are on the wings, and then it holds, the slots in the rod hold that stone at a consistent angle to be able to sharpen the knife. I'm sure they work great. I really didn't care for it, and I ended up giving it away to somebody that didn't really like to sharpen freehand on a stone. The biggest reason I don't like those type of setups, not that they're not, nice setups and, really popular and they sell an awful lot of them, but if you go back to our pencil analogy, you take, this is well, I use this one a little bit, but basically this is a pencil pretty fresh out of the mechanical sharpener up there on the wall. Okay, so you see how it's a nice sloping angle of the sharpening. It starts back here. It's a nice smooth continuous plane up to the point on both sides. If you just, the thing about those guided sharpening systems is that they are at a fixed angle, and they don't take material off of the sides of the blade like this pencil sharpener will. So if you're just coming in and hitting at the same angle over and over and over again, and you're not removing any more material back here from the sides of the knife, what happens is this will be, say, a factory edge. Okay, you use the knife a couple of times. Let's find a good spot, maybe about there. And you see, that's what happens. You get a much blunter edge, a much steeper edge, because you're just removing material off that edge. Now, if you keep just removing material off that edge, pretty soon you end up with something like this. It's really blunt. That's what happens if you don't remove material from the sides, from the shoulders of that blade. The shoulders of the edge is what I call them. So anyway, and at that sort of thing, maintaining that good edge geometry and being able to tune that edge geometry to your use of that particular knife, that's where stones have got no equal as far as I'm concerned. Now, there's a whole bunch of different kind of stones. Um, I have my preferences. I know a lot of people have their preferences, and hey, as long as you're getting good results, go right on ahead, keep going. But I'm going to go over the stones that I like to use most in the shop. I've got a couple of other ones here that we'll talk about as we go along. Okay, so first off here we have some diamond stones, or diamond hones, either way. We've got the DMT 3-stone set, I believe, and DMTs are all color coded, and I can't get the, these are kind of stuck in that wooden case. I think they've got a chart. Yep, they got a chart right here. Don't know if you can see that or not, but it's on their website. So this one would be the coarse is the blue, the fine is the red, and the green is the extra fine. The coarse is 325 grit, the fine is 600, and the extra fine is 1200 grit. You might be able to pick that up, might not, I don't know. Personally, I just like the 325 grit. I go through, probably at least 3 or 4 or 5 of these this size of diamond hone a year with as many knives as I sharpen. If you do, about the only thing I can tell you about these is keep them clean. Rinse them off under running water, a little bit of soap every once in a while. Light pressure will keep them cutting an awful lot longer. The nice thing about these stones is also kind of the bad thing. The interrupted surface on here, it does give the steel that you ground off the blade a place to go, but in between the in the little circles in here, but those circles can also catch, and if you don't keep it clean, you might remove part of a burr, and that little bitty piece of that burr might get stuck in one of these, and then when you come in and do the next sharpening, that edge might come in and hit that burr and give you a little bit more work. But they are really good stones. They remove material fairly quickly. They stay flat, which is really nice, and they don't dish out or anything like that. You just have to, I have to replace them a couple of times, but a year. But I sharpen a lot of knives. But the DMTs are great, the interrupted surfaces ones. Here's a new one for me. I've had this one for about 3 or 4 months, and it is a DMT continuous surface, and it's also in the coarse grit, which is a 325 grit. And I've been really liking it quite a bit. It does seem to cut a lot more aggressively. Of course, there's an awful lot more surface area. This is a big one, 8" by 3", and it's just one-sided. It doesn't have the holes, so that's really nice a lot of times. The other company that I like to use and that I recommend for people to try out are the Smiths. Smiths makes, not only do they make the stones, the regular old interrupted surface stones. This one's the yellow one, which is their coarse grit, which is also a 325 grit stone. But they also sell these little pocket ones, and they pop apart and then store in the handle like that. And these ones have got a coarse and a fine side. So the coarse side is your yellow, and the fine side is orange looking. And it's probably about the same, this is a 325 and this side's probably like a 600, just like the DMTs. They also sell these really nice oval kitchen steels. Now, mostly a steel. I don't use a steel very often. I do use these because I like them. That 325 grit edge for me is about the perfect blend of slicing aggression and fineness and a long-lasting edge. The finer you go, typically the less slicing aggression you have. And most of my cutting is really rough work, and I like about anywhere between a 2 and a 400 grit edge. For me, it gives me about the best combination of slicing aggression, edge holding, and ease of sharpening too. I mean, who wants to spend 2 or 3 hours sharpening a knife only to go out and you use it the first time and run into a staple and dull the thing up. I rarely spend more than about 3 minutes sharpening a knife, so I like these coarse ones. Onto the, well, I guess here's a ceramic sharpening steel for like the kitchen. This one, that ceramic is so fine that it doesn't remove a whole lot of metal. So pretty much with these and the actual steel versions, pretty much all you're doing is polishing an edge or realigning it. If parts of that edge got bent out from the rest of the edge, a steel will realign those and then pretty much just polish what's there. They don't really remove a whole lot of material. Now for oil stones, I've got 3 of them here. Both of these are Norton crystallons, and then this one right here is a Norton Fine India. This is what my friend Ed Fowler likes to use on, I think that's the only stone he does use. It gives like a 400, maybe 450 grit edge. These Norton crystalline stones, I use them mostly for shaping, not so much for sharpening, which we'll get into shaping and sharpening when probably in the next video or the video after. I'm not sure how long this series is going to go on. But anyway, these do a really good job of removing a lot of material fast. So let's say you have an edge that you've done this to. You've sharpened it at that 20-degree angle or whatever it is, and you've kept sharpening at that angle and that angle and that angle, and finally it's just blunt. I mean, it might be real sharp, but if you're trying to do anything but straight down cuts, I guess the easiest way to describe that would be to try to sharpen a pencil with a knife that has an edge like this. You will end up, and here's my pocket knife. Okay, so this angle, if this knife had this angle on it, okay, it would cut really good at 90 degrees to whatever it is that you're cutting. Okay, because those shoulders are out of the way. Now the second you go to sharpen a pencil with it, you're going to have to lift that edge or the spine up to like here before the edge clears the shoulders of the edge and actually can start biting and getting any work done. Whereas if you have a nice thin edge like this, you can lay that blade flat and then just pick it up just a hair and be able to start cutting. So anyway, so if you've got an edge that's been sharpened at the same angle over and over and over again, and the edge is just too thick, these stones are probably one of your best bets to be able to reshape that edge. You can use a lot of pressure on these stones. You can go really fast. They've got a coarse and a fine side. This one right here I picked up pretty recently at the local farm and ranch supply store. I think it was like about $20 or $30, something like that. Norton combination bench stone. Here it says coarse fine. There it says crystalline. Part number is JB8. There's also another stone out there that you can get at like Home Depot that says it's a Norton, it's a Norton combination stone, and I haven't had very good luck with those. The especially the coarse side, when you try to oil them up, the oil just runs right through them. You can't keep enough oil on there to keep sharpening. This one right here acts an awful lot like this one. It's a Norton combination crystalline giant bench stone. I picked this one up for $3 at a yard sale, and it had been really well used long before I got it, and it still works really well. The thing with these stones that I have found the most important is dressing them and the lubricant that you use when you're sharpening. On these stones, if you don't use a lubricant, they'll load up real fast, and then they won't cut the way they're supposed to. So I use, well, this is what I use right here. Get this at the Farm and Ranch Supply store, just straight up mineral oil. This is the same stuff. In fact, I picked this up at Walmart. I think it was on sale for like $1. But if you look at the ingredients, it's just straight up mineral oil. So what I do is I fill this up from this gallon jug and then just keep this on the bench. You know, it's got a flip top. Works really great for, you know, putting a controlled amount of oil on your stone. When the stone finally gets galled up and the pores in the stone are plugged up so much that it's not cutting efficiently anymore, I use a coarse file to recondition the surface of that stone. Now, it sounds horrible, but it works really well. I've tried using cleaners, you know, scrubbing it with a brush, like a wire welding brush or something like that, to get all that metal out of the pores of the stone. And, you know, it kind of works a little bit, but you can take an old coarse file that won't really cut, you know, it's too wore out to keep using it. Take it and pretty much hold it at a steep angle and basically just scrape the top layer of the stone off to expose fresh stone, and it'll go right back to cutting again. You can, if you really wanted to, you know, you could take a pencil and make a whole bunch of marks on the face of the stone, rub it on something flat, you know, a piece of plate glass, maybe a flat piece of concrete in your shop, something like that. And wherever, you know, the pencil marks are gone, then you could flatten it with this. You know, if this part right here, the pencil marks were gone on, you know, the very tops, and the center, the pencil marks were still there, you could take that surface down with the file and then do it again, and then keep going until you had a truly flat surface. Like I said, these I usually use mostly for shaping, and so, you know, when they get really dished out, yeah, you know, I can go ahead and true them up. Or, you know, when you're trying to get in right at the ricasso, or you've got a you know, a tough spot, a lot of times this part right here will be nice and fresh, or, you know, not quite as glazed over as the rest, so you can go ahead and use it to get up into nice tight spots. The same thing goes with the Norton Fine India. It'll get galled up, and the best way I've found to recondition it is with a file. But mineral oil is the best sharpening lubricant that I've found on those. I only have one water stone, and, you know, I wish I would have kept the box. I think it's around here somewhere, but I can't find it. I picked this one up at a woodworking supply house, and I want to say they said it was like a 800 or 1,000 grit. And you can see it's still pretty much brand new, except for the chunk busted off the corner. I'm kind of on the fence about these, you know, because I like my oil stones and my diamond hones so much. But, you know, I do almost all my sharpening out here in the shop. These water stones, I can really see where people would like them if they were sharpening in the kitchen, because you're not using mineral oil, or, you know, some people use kerosene or a light machine oil or something like that, you know, and you don't really want that getting all over your kitchen counter. Well, these water stones, you just use straight up water for a lubricant. And so the cleanup would be really nice. I know Murray Carter really loves his water stones, and you know, if you get a chance, check out some of his videos. He does an excellent job explaining pretty much the same thing I'm trying to explain about with the pencil, and sharpening not only the edge, but also he actually sharpens the sides of the knife every time he sharpens. Um, but I really haven't found that I like the water stones all that much. For a basic set of stones, if I had no sharpening system right now, and I needed to go out and get another, if I needed to be able to sharpen stuff, I would run and grab one of these Norton crystalline coarse fines. I would grab one of those for shaping, and then I would grab one of the diamond hones, either the DMT coarse or the continuous, or you know, a ginormous one like this, or heck, even one of these just for you know, just for fine tuning and actually doing the sharpening after you've finished your shaping. I want to say you can pick these up for like $15 at Walmart. I think the big one of these, the best deal I found on these is at midwayusa.com. Mostly a reloading, shooting and hunting supply place, but they've got these for, I want to say, like $50 or maybe a little bit under. And like I said, these right here, I picked this one up at the local farm and ranch supply house, but you can probably get them cheaper on the internet. Anyways, that's kind of the basic stones that that I like to use the most, and why. And we went over the mechanical, you know, the guided angle systems and how come I don't particularly care for those. You know, I think that's it for this video. I think the next one will probably be on angles, and might actually do a little bit of sharpening while we're there. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.